Hi, everybody. It's Eric Murray from the receiver-laden.com. I wrote an article earlier today talking about some of the guys who are kind of surprising a little bit in training camp, and some of the guys who are disappointing. Obviously every year there's some young guys that kind of come out of nowhere in training camp, or maybe guys who've been around for a couple of years but are finally just kind of breaking out now. And of course, there's veterans that do the exact opposite. Anyways, the name of the article on the receiver-laden.com is Training Camp Movers and Shakers, Week 1. I actually, for this article, I highlighted three players, and they're all actually wide receivers. So this is going to be a wide receiver edition, you could say. But a couple guys that I pointed out as far as guys who are surprises so far. One guy's been around for a couple years, Laquan Treadwell, who's a Vikings receiver. Of course, used to play his college ball at Ole Miss. And then a rookie, Equanimous St. Brown, the Notre Dame rookie who plays for the Green Bay Packers. Packers took him in the 6th round. With Treadwell, he's a guy that, he's been in the league 2 years now, has 21 career catches in 25 career games, has yet to score a touchdown. He's a guy, he's 6'2", 215, lean, long, has some athleticism and some length. But some of his knocks coming out of college were that he didn't have a whole lot of speed, which happens with a lot of bigger receivers, couldn't create separation. And despite the fact that he could make some really amazing catches at times, he also had some concentration lapses and would drop a lot of easy passes as well. And that's kind of been his NFL career in a nutshell. So he's really been a disappointment so far. But, he's a guy that is a high character, hardworking guy, came back from that injury at Ole Miss, that tibia injury, bounced back right away, had a great career there. So he's a football junkie. He's a guy that really loves the game from everything I've heard, but it's just a matter of, translating to the NFL, proving you can create separation and do those types of things. And he hasn't had the greatest quarterback situation the last couple of years with the Vikings. Well, now Kirk Cousins comes in, and according to reports, him and Cousins have really been on the same page in camp and have done really well. The Vikings are actually going to play tonight. That game will be starting here shortly, so we'll see how Treadwell does in his first preseason game. But thus far in training camp, he's looked really, really good. There was one red zone drill where he had caught 4 touchdown passes from Cousins in 6 attempts. So, he's starting to be on the up and up. And, what it means for the Vikings is, they already have Adam Thielen. They already have Stephon Diggs. And, of course, they also have Kyle Rudolph at tight end, and Dalvin Cook coming back from injury, coming out of the backfield, and Murray as well, Latavius Murray. So, it's in a sense it's kind of a luxury, but it's also a thing that can really kind of help take them over the top, because the Vikings, with Cousins, they expect to win a Super Bowl, and if Treadwell can step it up and really contribute in the red zone and move the chains a little bit too, that's going to be really, really big for them. So that's one extra weapon. I think Cousins could legit throw 30, 35 touchdown passes this year, and I think Treadwell becoming finally a relevant player would definitely go a long way. As far as St. Brown, he was a guy that at one point was projected to either go possibly late 1st round or at least somewhere on day 2 in the draft. He ends up going all the way down to the 6th round. As far as I know, he doesn't have any sort of character concerns, but the main thing is he's not overly physical. He's 6'5", 214, but he's a fast guy, can run by guys, but physicality isn't consistently there. Also dealing with some inconsistency in some other areas as far as concentration and things like that. But he's a guy that, could be a great fit for the Packers. In his scouting report, he's great with back shoulder throws, can really be a red zone threat. Being big and having all that size. So he can be a playmaker. And those are all things that Aaron Rodgers loves, especially the back shoulder part. How many back shoulder throws has Aaron Rodgers had? So, the thing is, too, Jordy Nelson was let go in the offseason. And you look at the returning starters, you have Randall Cobb and you have Devontae Adams. Well, those guys get hurt a lot. Those guys both have health concerns. And some of the guys that tried to step in last year, guys that are still on the roster, like Trevor Davis and Geronimo Allison, amongst others, they really didn't do a whole lot. So the Packers went out and they drafted 3 receivers, and St. Brown was actually the last of the 3 that they took. Took a kid from South Florida, that Valdez, I can't remember his name. It's like a hyphenated name. And then Jamon Moore from Missouri was the first one they took. I think they took him 4th round, I believe. But from what I've heard, I mean, it sounds like St. Brown's looked pretty good in camp. The other night, Thursday night, they played the Titans. He had 4 catches, 61 yards, and he had a really nice 28-yard reception that set up a touchdown. Now, there have been a couple other of younger receivers out there that have, looked pretty good in camp for the Packers too. So it won't be easy for him to make the team. But at the same time, if he continues to perform pretty well in preseason with his skill set, it's hard to kind of stash him on the practice squad because, any team has the right to scoop him up at any moment, and you figure somebody will take a chance there. So really, it's nice for the Packers because if he, especially with those starting receivers, like I said, with some of their injuries, if he can make the team and kind of contribute, he could easily end up being the 3rd receiver. And with the injuries ahead of him, I mean, he could end up making a lot of big plays at different points of the season, especially a couple key plays late in a couple of games that they really need to win. So that could be the difference between the Packers, beyond, of course, Rodgers staying healthy all year. But that could be the difference between the Packers getting a couple key extra wins to make the playoffs or sit at home in January for the 2nd year in a row. I mean, they're a team with Rodgers back. They feel like they can compete for a Super Bowl, but they could just as easily miss the playoffs. So, we'll see, but he could definitely be a big reason why they win more games this year and get back to postseason, and, we'll see what happens from there. I only highlighted one disappointment, obviously, again, another receiver, Devontae Parker from the Dolphins. Like Treadwell, he was a former first-round pick. He was a first-rounder, 14th overall back in 2015, so now he's going into his 4th year. The Dolphins had already declined his 5th-year option, so, unless he turns it around this year, he'll be looking for a new job somewhere else next year, and who knows if he'll even survive camp. The thing with him is another guy that has a lot of athleticism, a lot of size. I think he's listed 6'3", 212. But some questions with work ethic, questions about conditioning, his diet and different things, just maybe not taking the game as seriously as he should. There have been some reports that he's taking things more seriously this offseason and he's determined to prove people wrong. But also things I've read from the Miami papers, some of the articles online, are that so far it's been a mixed bag at best this offseason for him. He's been wildly inconsistent in practice and still making some of the same mistakes that he was making before. And then, of course, remember Ryan Tannehill is coming back from his torn ACL. And, last night in their preseason game, or actually I believe it was Thursday night, Dolphins preseason game against the Bucs, Tannehill didn't even target Parker that entire game. So, it wasn't like Tannehill's terrible or nothing. He's like 4 for 6. So, yeah, Parker didn't get targeted at all. You had all these other guys that got targeted in the game, and he didn't get targeted at all. As far as what it means for the Dolphins, you brought in Danny Amendola, even though he's kind of getting up there in age, and you still have Kenny Stills. Obviously, you trade away Jarvis Landry. You have Mike Gesicki, the rookie tight end out of Penn State. But they really could use a couple more weapons, and him stepping up and really taking this game to the next level would be huge. But his guy has caught like 55, 6, 7 passes the last couple of years, but just hasn't been that much of a playmaker consistently. Needs to do a heck of a lot more for Miami to commit to him long term. And, from some of the things you hear thus far into camp, it just sounds like he's not really getting better. So, yeah, his future's not too promising in Miami, and who knows what will happen from there. But Miami could sure use him. We'll see what happens. The Dolphins trying to get back to the playoffs like they were a couple years ago, but they definitely need him to step up, and so far not so great. So anyways, that's all I have. But please go to thesugarhuddle.com. The article that accompanies this video is on there, as well as a number of other articles. In a few weeks, the website will be overhauled. I just hired some professional web designers, so it'll be an even better website. There'll be more advertising. So, look for those things. But anyways, I'm going to do a couple more videos before the end of the weekend, including the NFC North preview to recap those articles I wrote earlier in the week. So look for that by the end of this weekend, and go to sugarhuddle.com. I'm Eric Murray. Thank you.